Jimmy Garoppolo did not practice for the 49ers on Wednesday. So that means that there is a good chance that Trey Lance will make his first career start for the 49ers in their huge game at Arizona on Sunday. Nothing is set in stone yet. Jimmy's going to try to get back out there on Thursday with his calf injury. If he's able to do so, and if he's able to operate at near 100%, it's still likely that Jimmy Garoppolo will be the 49ers starter in Arizona. However, whenever we're dealing with two if statements, it's not likely that both will be satisfied with a yes. So that means that there's a really good chance that Trey Lance does start. That's what we're here to talk about, the potential of that happening in this massive game. The Cardinals are the NFL's final remaining unbeaten team here in 2021. The 49ers are 2-2, and boy, would it feel nice for Kyle Shanahan's team to enter the bye week at 3-2, only a game out of first place in the NFC West, with plenty of football, still 12 games left to play in this 2021 season. So we're still early in this marathon of a process, and the 49ers are just going to try to do what they can to scrap out a win at Arizona and move forward to their bye week and then the next test, which will be Indianapolis at home. And if the best chance to win involves playing Trey Lance over an injury compromised Jimmy Garoppolo, I think you better believe that Kyle Shanahan's going to do that. However, if we want to expand on that, to give the 49ers the best shot to win within those parameters, Kyle Shanahan's going to have to come up with a creative game plan, because it was clear, and it has been clear through training camp and preseason, and then obviously through the second half of the game at Seattle, that Trey Lance is not ready to deliver a standard NFL QB game where he has to make 25 to 30 decisions from the pocket. I think to consistently win in the National Football League, quarterbacks have to make 25 to 30 good decisions from a pocket on a week to week basis. Otherwise, defenses will ultimately adjust to them. The good news for the 49ers and for Trey Lance is that, especially when the opponent doesn't really have any film on you, and especially when it's a shorter term kind of scenario, smoke and mirrors can make it work. By that, I mean a specifically tailored game plan to make Trey Lance comfortable and to accentuate his strengths and minimize his weaknesses can be enough for the 49ers to beat the Cardinals. Yes, Arizona's 4-0. Yes, they've been very impressive. We're talking number 6 offense behind Kyler Murray, number 6 defense behind J.J. Watt and company. But as we saw, last year when C.J. Beathard came into Arizona and led the 49ers to a win, and as we've seen on a week-to-week basis throughout the history of the National Football League, it's still a winnable game for the 49ers. We know that the defensive line has immense talent. They showed it through those first 5 possessions against Seattle. We know that the 49ers have weapons on offense. And we know that Trey Lance has potential to do some good stuff. So how does Kyle Shanahan maximize him? I think part of this is going to be counterintuitive. I think everybody and their mom knows that the 49ers are going to run a read option based offense against the Cardinals. They're going to try to accentuate the run game. They're going to try to accentuate Trey Lance's legs. That becomes a whole lot easier if Trent Williams, who did not practice on Wednesday due to a shoulder injury, is available. So obviously you want Trent Williams in there. And it also becomes a whole lot easier if Elijah Mitchell is available to complement Trey Sermon. So that's the first big thing here before I get to more of the bombshell part of this. And it may not surprise all of you because I already tweeted about it. But when the run game is obviously going to be so critical to what the 49ers are doing, it is even when Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback. But with Trey Lance, when he's keeping the ball or he's faking on those handoffs, I think it's really, really important for the 49ers to have a diversified backfield. I think that Trey Sermon, with his 17 carries for 87 yards against Seattle, mainly on inside zone and gap scheme plays, I think that he's going to be a fine NFL back. I think he has the build, he has the sturdiness, he has the vision to be able to execute on those interior runs. But he doesn't really have that burner speed to give Shanahan and the 49ers the stretch the field aspect to outside zone. So getting Elijah Mitchell back, and I think that's trending in that direction for this week, can be huge for Trey Lance and the 49ers, because then you can run outside zone from read option. You can, branch off of read option and run the inside zone to Sermon, and you can mix and match and keep both backs fresh to a point where you're really keeping defenses honest with Trey Lance obviously keeping some of the fakes throughout this whole process. So for Shanahan to really be able to unlock what he wants to do with Trey Lance and make him as comfortable as possible this weekend, I think it is imperative that Elijah Mitchell is active in this game. Two, this is the passing component. This is where Kyle Shanahan is going to have to think a little bit outside the box. And I think that the 49ers are ready for this. When the 49ers were adapting on the fly in the third quarter, with Trey Lance inserted into that game against the Seahawks, Kyle did try to scheme some easier throws to get Trey into the flow of things. The problem is he delivered one of the ugliest passes I've ever seen to George Kittle on his first throw. Didn't even make it to George. Was a little bit behind him, just that little wobbler on the short pass. And then Trey just wasn't sealing the field very well later in his outing, so he was missing some of the shorter ones that Kyle Shanahan schemed for him. As a result, it took Trey a little bit longer to get into a good flow than the 49ers would have liked. He finally hit that flow by the final drive of the game, but of course it was too little, too late by that point. As you know, I've charted all of Trey Lance's throws through training camp. I've kept meticulous notes on what he did there, what he did during the preseason, and I obviously watched the second half of the game at Seattle. I think that it is eminently clear that Trey Lance, as of right now, is much more comfortable throwing the deep ball, uncorking passes far downfield than he is in the short game. The long game for Trey Lance is ahead of the short game right now, which is unusual. For a lot of quarterbacks, it's going to be the opposite, right? The short game builds into the long game, especially for rookies. You want to scheme some of those easy throws to get him into it. But Trey Lance is cut from a little bit of a different cloth. Obviously, the guy's an elite athlete, but he also has an elite cannon as far as just launching from odd angles and getting the ball far downfield. Throughout training camp, throughout the preseason on the Throw to Sure field, we consistently saw Trey Lance really wow us with these just rockets, torpedoes, whatever you want to call them, these missiles downfield. Whereas when it came to move the ball sessions, when it was imperative that the 49ers be a little bit more conservative so they can move the chains, not risk sacks, just game time kind of stuff, Trey Lance became a lot less efficient. So if you're cornered into having to play Trey Lance down in and down out before he takes care of some of those short game issues, and I'm going to detail, some ways around that in a little bit, I actually think that you scheme some longer throws for Trey Lance very early in the game against the Cardinals. And I think that this counterintuitive thinking can really work for a couple of reasons. A, the film that Arizona has on Trey Lance is that he's going to run a lot. The 49ers are going to run the option game, that, they're going to have to add another defender into the box to account for the threat of Trey Lance running. And I think just naturally, new quarterback, Arizona might dare him to pass a little bit early in his outing. If the 49ers pull a fast one and send Brandon Ayuk deep, or, send somebody, that's fast on this team deep. And I know that the receiving game really isn't built for these downfield go routes, but I think Brandon Ayuk can run it, right? He did at ASU. You send somebody, maybe even Kittle. I don't know what his health status is going to be, but somebody who could just get behind the defense on a real bomb. If you send him deep early and you run it off of a fake, option fake, and you let Trey Lance just uncork one. That's my favorite word, uncork one. Really air it out. I think there's going to be no better way to get him in the game flow than doing something like that on Sunday against Arizona. Now, let's look at the potential upsides and downsides of doing something like that. I mean, if you truly let him uncork one, I'm talking 40-plus yards down the field. The upside is a 49ers touchdown if they do catch it and they do score. Another upside is Trey Lance is confident, right? I mean, he's going to get his confidence immediately if he's able to hit on a pass like that. Another upside is Arizona can't really, crowd anything short for the time being, because they're going to be afraid that the 49ers go over the top again. And another upside is that the 49ers can run under such circumstances. It's going to open a lot up. Now, what are the potential downsides? Well, the pass could be incomplete, but is that even much of a downside? No, it's just an incompletion. The pass could be intercepted. Even then, it's like a punt, 40 or 50 yards downfield. I don't even see potential lack of confidence being, coming through this as being one of the potential downsides because, oh well, you miss a 50-yard pass, you kind of shrug it off and you go on to the next one if you're Trey Lance, right? It's a whole lot worse to miss a 5-yarder to George Kittle like he did against the Seahawks than it is to really miss a deep one. And I out of the list of downsides, I don't see any different defensive schematics or adjustments as one of those because I think that even if Trey Lance misses on one of his early deep shots or his early deep shot, the defense will still, have to respect something like that happening later in the game because the 49ers have already tried it. So, in short, I see high upside, low downside for a decision like this, with the biggest potential downside being one that I haven't listed yet, and that being some kind of blow up at the line of scrimmage and an Arizona sack, and even worse, an Arizona strip sack. You don't want that to happen. So if you can mitigate the risk if you're the 49ers by making sure you're in max protect or schematically ensuring that you call this play at the right time, right? When Arizona's not bringing an extra man, an extra blitz. If you can mitigate that risk of a slow developing downfield play blowing up immediately, and you give Trey Lance some time behind the line of scrimmage, maybe even let him roam a little bit, and you let him uncork one, just like when he was at his best during training camp, I think that you could best get him into the flow of this game and best kind of set the tone for the 49ers against the Arizona defense. That would be my recommendation. It might sound overly simplistic, but this is based on watching Trey throughout this entire training camp and preseason. And that's when he really wowed us. And if the 49ers do have to start him on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals, take his wow factor and put it out there so that he could get into a rhythm. It's so important that he gets into a rhythm that he didn't get into until the very end of that game against Seattle. Then you hope that the shorter throws follow suit. And, the short game was an issue for Trey Lance against the Seahawks. He either didn't see it most of the time or he missed it. And Kyle Shanahan is going to want production from the pocket within structure. And for a game to operate within Kyle Shanahan's desired structure, Trey Lance is going to have to be able to deliver in the short game. It's just the way it is. The 49ers have a lot of receivers built for yards after the catch. They're not going to just abandon, their crossing concepts and their screen concepts. They're going to try to take those and hybridize it with Trey Lance's game, which should include a couple of those spontaneous deeper shots to take advantage of the fact that Trey Lance can do some of that stuff and to take advantage of the stuff that he can move behind the line of scrimmage and then, even take off if nothing is there. So, that's why this is so tricky because the 49ers are trying to hybridize a complex scheme with a complex, not a revolutionary, but a complex, innovative new skill set that Trey Lance brings to the table. And I would really highly recommend that they get some of that stuff on tape against Arizona early because I think that's when it could do Trey Lance the most service early in that game. Now, even if Jimmy Garoppolo does end up starting on Sunday, and if he's close to 100%, he is the 49ers' best option to try to win this game. And then they haven't punted this season yet. They're 2-2. They're 2 games out of first. Obviously, from a move the ball efficiency perspective, there's a reason they have Jimmy Garoppolo on this team and they're paying him that much money. They want him to be able to string together drives and set the 49ers up to score. My biggest criticism of Kyle Shanahan's path so far is that he has deviated from his preseason plan of working Trey Lance in with Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not talking a 50-50 or 60-40 timeshare. I'm talking about specific plays situationally that accentuate Trey Lance's strengths, minimize his weaknesses, and complement Jimmy Garoppolo to create the best 49ers offense possible. Why has Kyle Shanahan abandoned this? The answers are unclear. I mean, you could tell that he was going to, doing it a little bit against Detroit. My theory there after those 3 or 4 plays was that he was saving most of what he had up his sleeve for divisional opponents. But then we didn't see it against the Seattle Seahawks in the first half. And we didn't see it, obviously in weeks 2 and 3. And it made me think that, okay, maybe that rough start in week 2 maybe the rough start in week 3 when the 49ers are going 3 and out throughout most of the first quarter, maybe that put them behind the 8 ball and really dissuaded Kyle Shanahan from being aggressive and using that Trey Lance mix and match the way that he had initially planned to. I thought that Kyle Shanahan paid a price for this against the Seahawks because the 49ers did have a rhythm against Seattle in the first half. A, they didn't score many points beyond the first 7. They didn't score anything in that first half after the first drive. And B, once Trey Lance did have to come in, it was a total cold turkey experiment for him in the second half. And it took a while to get the engine revved up. So it's absolutely imperative, especially if you have injury issues surrounding Jimmy Garoppolo, that Trey Lance does not come into these games cold turkey. So even if Jimmy starts on Sunday, Kyle Shanahan needs to go back to the original plan. And the 49ers practiced the in and out pull of both quarterbacks. They practiced the game clock dynamics. This wasn't just some kind of ruse for the Detroit Lions during the preseason. This was something that Kyle Shanahan wanted to really dabble in. So that way, Trey Lance would be ready at more moments' notice. So he would be acclimated to game speed. So he'd still be developing even while Jimmy Garoppolo was the more efficient starter. There was a way to, have cake and eat it too if you're the 49ers. And I think fans should be disappointed that throughout the first 4 weeks of the season, Shanahan really lost that formula. So, either Lance starts this game because Garoppolo is not healthy enough to play, and Shanahan needs to unleash his strengths when he combines them with that read option game, and he needs to have Lance uncork a couple downfield early on, or Garoppolo starts, and if that's the case, Lance has to play more. And Garoppolo getting hurt against the Seattle Seahawks, I think, underscored where the 49ers went wrong. They're trying for this dual track quarterback system, and I totally understand it. I get that you have Jimmy Garoppolo for the short term and Trey Lance for the long term, and you can intermix them, but you actually have to execute that plan. You can't just abandon it and have a one-track system, and then with that one-track system, you see Jimmy Garoppolo get hurt, and then you're screwed when you have to put the second guy in because he's cold and he's a rookie and he's raw and he's coming off the bench, and it was no good early on against Seattle. So you have to set Trey up to succeed, and that's what this is all about. So I know it's a complex kind of video with multiple scenarios and things going on, but I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and rewatch this if it didn't make any sense. Hopefully it does on a second viewing. All right, everybody take care and have a good Wednesday evening.